Welcome back to the Urban Elementz studio. We'd like to wish you all, from our family to yours, a very happy Valentine's Day. I know here it's a little bit chilly. Hopefully Valentine's Day will warm your heart. Today we're going to be working on month 3, block 3 of both our dog park and alley cat quilt. The quilt was originally released in both versions as a block of the month, but the block of the month period is over, so each of these kits are available as individual blocks for the 12 blocks or as a complete kit. So we have dog park and alley cat. So I'm going to move the camera in closer, and I think I'm even going to crack open my box of chocolates. One of the great things about being alone for Valentine's Day is that you don't have to share the chocolate. So I'm going to crack open my chocolate, and I'm going to get started on these really cute blocks for alley cat and dog park. We are in month 3 of our block of the month progression. This is this block here that we're going to be working on today, if you want to see it in the overall quilt. So we have both versions that we're going to be working on, and we're going to go ahead, well, I'm going to go ahead and open those up, but first I think I'm going to open up my box of chocolates and give myself a little reward, because I don't know anybody that doesn't like chocolate. Man, that's going to be a beautiful thing. So I'm going to get these opened up and spread out. I always like to have my pieces all laid out so I make sure everything's there and I know in general where the pieces are going, and then we're going to go ahead and get these placed down in real time on our background fabric and get these blocks on the book. We have the alley cat block number 3 all laid out. I always like to iron my pattern first, make sure that it's flat and won't have any distortions. I've re-ironed my background fabric to make sure that it lays perfectly flat. I don't want any little micro pleats underneath my applique pieces. And then I've laid out all of my components onto the side in an approximate location to where they'll actually be placed on the block, just so that I can make sure that I have everything. I haven't misplaced anything onto the floor or still sticking to the cling of the bag. And also it just helps in the progression of assembling the block. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my light on so we can see the pattern through here, and I'm just going to start at the bottom. The laser cut backing, the paper peels off really easily off of the back, and it makes putting these projects together really simple. The Steam-A-Seam 2 is tacky to the touch, so you can see that that is already sticking to the fabric. It's not permanent at this stage. I can reposition it, but basically it's just peel, place, and press. So I'm going to work down the pattern and put on my next piece. Well, actually the head goes next. I can see that the muzzle sticks on top of the head there. So I'm going to continue peeling these papers off, and I'm just going to be using the light box to get the approximate location of each of these pieces. I don't think it's absolutely necessary to have a light box. Sometimes when I'm working on a project where the background material is too thick for the light box to even be effective, I will place the pattern on top and then just lift the paper up as I slide the pieces in place. And I find that works just as well. You do have a little bit of margin of error. And you can see here I've already placed the head down, but this little accent goes back behind there. So I can just lift that up and place it where it needs to go. I don't know if you would say this cat is having a good hair day or a bad hair day. because his hair is sticking all over the place. Over the last spring, I had a cat in my backyard that had a litter of kittens, and it was so cold out and there was no food that I started putting some food out. Well, I can't tell you how many cats are in my backyard at this point. I think she's had 3 litters this year. I'm going to have to find out if my area has a catch and release program. Really, this is so easy that you could have this be a kids project. The kids could certainly help with this if you assisted them with the iron. The paper pieces peel off the back so easily. You can see you can just lift up the little pieces when you need to if you have to tuck something underneath, like I am both with the ear, the outer ear and the inner ear here. And I'm going to move on to his little nose. You can see how that really starts to pop together, the look of the face. And where you put the pupil on the eye is really going to give some expression to your cat. I like to put them a little bit off center, and that makes them look a little crazy. He's a little cockeyed, which is fine with me. Reminds me of the ones that are roaming around my backyard. But you can see I have a great deal of this finished already. I'm just going to move on to his little whiskers and his freckles, and the cat block will be finished. If you ever have a problem with the paper peeling off, you can always score the back of the paper with a seam ripper or with the tip of a pen, and that will tear the paper enough that you can bend the shape in half and get a hold of the fusible paper. That way you can peel it off and not have an issue. Sometimes I like to do that even if the paper is coming off okay, just to make sure that I really protect the edge of a really crisp small piece. Or circles, it keeps the circle perfectly round so you don't fray the fabric at all. Now I don't have a stopwatch, but I think you can see just how quick this goes together. And as I said, this is available as a full kit, but also if you just wanted to play with one of the blocks, you could order them individually on our website. I love the polka dot fabric. It really plays into the whimsical nature of these blocks. And I'm also really loving my background fabric that looks like a unround ball of yarn. And I bought that in both this lighter blue color, but I also have it in a black color that I'm going to use when I get to the border to border my piece. And this is my last piece. This just goes to show you how quickly these could go together. And you can see just by the heat of my hand that these pieces are still in place. I can go ahead and move this over to the ironing board and cover it with a pressing cloth, apply some steam or moisture to here with my spray bottle, and get this fused permanently. And next I'm going to set up the dog park block 3. Just as I did for the Alley Cat block 3, I went ahead and ironed my paper pattern and I ironed my background fabric. And you can see I have the components laid out for the dog park block number 3. This will go even faster than the previous one because we don't have the whiskers and the freckles. I just want to show you, if you ever have to score the back of the paper, you can use a pen and then the paper will just peel right off if you ever have a piece that's stubborn or getting stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and place down our neck, and our dog ears go back behind the head, so I'll place those next. I have both ears in place now. I can put down the head, which is a nice beautiful circle. And that is one piece where you might want to use your pen to go ahead and perforate the paper in the back, just so that you maintain your really crisp edge if your paper's not coming free as nicely as you'd want it to. Where the cat had her purple behind her head, the dog has his behind his big thick muzzle. That just adds a little bit of excitement and color to this block. We have our little lips next. And our lip goes just here somewhere. And I can still see the bottom here to place my muzzle. And we'll get our eyes and nose on here. Again, where you place the pupil of your eyes will help give a little bit of expression. And you can see I just lifted up the fabric a little bit so I could see where the eye was located, just to make sure I'm getting it. And then I have my 2 pupils and I'm finished. These black components are made of a thicker type of fabric. I believe it's like an ultra suede. And it's just a little bit trickier to get the paper off of those. So I'm going to go ahead and get my iron turned on. I have all of the components on for the dog park block 3. I'm going to get my pressing cloth out and I'm going to press both of these blocks and we'll have this one wrapped up. I have my pressing cloth out and I've got my iron warmed up. I don't like to use water in my iron, that way my iron doesn't leak and spurt. So I'm just using a spray bottle to mist the applique shapes. So when I go ahead and lay the pressing sheet on top of it and apply the heat, the applique will still have the required steam that is needed to fuse the product permanently to my background material. Now today we are using this on fabric. It's fabric on fabric, and so I'm using my iron. If I were fusing this on something what I couldn't hold the iron to, I could use the heat of a blow dryer and a pressing cloth and just hold the pressing cloth over the piece as I'm heating up the fusible material. In previous videos you will have seen that I've fused this laser cut and prefused applique onto glass and wood. We've done it on canvas, burlap. It can be fused onto a wide variety of items. After I apply the heat to this on the front side, I always like to turn it over and spray the backing again and refuse it from the back. The reason I use the pressing cloth is because sometimes I get lazy and go from side to side, and if you're doing that directly on the applique, you could scrunch up the edge of the applique and have it fuse in a way that you couldn't unfuse it, because it is permanent once it's fused. So after I'd finished heating this up on the front, you can see the steam coming up. That is good. But after I finished, I would flip this over and refuse it again from the back side. And the reason I do that is I want the heat to go through all the different layers of the material and make sure that it's properly fused all the way through. If you're getting gumming on your needle, that's an indicator that you have not fused long enough. I went ahead and fused these really well from both the front and the back. I especially like to take time where the thicker pupils are, the whiskers and the little freckles. Because that material is thicker, it takes a little while for the heat to permeate through the fabric to the adhesive. So off camera I really made sure that I fused really well from both the front and the back. That makes all of these components permanent. We do not top stitch any of our samples. It's not something I would enjoy doing, going around all those little pieces. So I want to make sure that the product is fused properly so that it is permanent. This is completely washable, so I could put this into a quilt without top stitching it and just quilting it, and that would be permanent enough to wash the quilt when it's finished. I want to thank you for joining us today for this Valentine edition of our Dog Park and Alley Cat, and I look forward to seeing you next month for our St. Patrick's Day edition. I believe that's next, and we'll get this project going, and pretty soon it will be a whole quilt. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you very soon. I'm going to go feed the cats.